I can get you one.
Thank you. Road.
Yeah, they did a very nice job on 8th Street.
So that's what the tie-ins.
Yep.
Usually what we talking about. And the sidewalk. It was worth having the ocean there.
Well, it was shutting down a little longer than I thought it would be, but they wanted to make sure that everything was the way it was in the house, so they could ready to smooth, compact, pour over it. It's like a better.
You want that one?
That's nicer, Mike. Can you go get me one too?
Okay, I don't know who the rest of them are.
Well, I didn't see you head back that direction, so I figured I would just that's all.
Get up there.
No, it's been pretty fun to watch. I will say, the one day I tried to sleep all day, having them busting the road up.
Yeah.
Was not a good day to try to sleep.
No, they got kind of loud there, friends.
No, cool.
Yeah, and not only loud, but I'm sure you probably felt.
Oh, my whole house shook.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was incredible. Between the trains, it always shake the house a little bit,
Right.
and then them just like boom. The foundation was the only thing that was suspicious on the house when I bought it, and I'm not sure it's in any better shape right now.
I was gonna say, well, maybe your fears are now over because if it lasted through
It
all
lasted
that,
through that.
it's gotta be good.
Oh, time is on. And then do this. I'm gonna go ahead and open the meeting, and then council will need to appoint a chair since the council president and mayor are not present. So let's go ahead and stand for the flag.
Of the United States. And to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a nomination or motion to appoint?
It's not. I'll nominate Councilor Thomas.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's the gavel again.
All right. He'll come in here before.
Okay, well, welcome to the June 21st, 2023 special city council meeting. We'll move on to, well, before we move on, we'll go to consent agenda. Is there any items in the consent agenda that council would like to pull out for further discussion?
I don't have any.
Okay. We will move on to agenda item number 2, the supplemental budget for fiscal year 2022-2023. This is a resolution approving a supplemental budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 budget.
So I would love to address the council if that's okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. This is Krista Wolf for the record from Wolf Consulting. I'm the city's finance consultant. So I am going to recommend that we push the supplemental budget discussion towards the end of the meeting. And the reason is the publication notices that went out in the paper had different times on them. So the publication for the supplemental said the meeting was at 7. And the publication for the meeting that, as far as like our discussion around adopting the new budget, was advertised at 6:30 p.m. So I think it might be in the council's best interest just to try to push the supplemental towards the end of the agenda. And I do have a little bit of presentation information that I can share up on the screen for each of these items that we need to discuss today, as there are public hearings that have to be held related to the shared revenues for the new year budget, and as well as on the new year budget that has been approved by the budget committee. And then we'll also have to hold a public hearing in relation to the supplemental budget.
Okay, so we'll move the supplemental budget for this fiscal year to be above the consent agenda, and then we can move on to topic number 3, the public hearings for state shared revenue and budget for fiscal year 2023-2024.
Great. So I will go ahead and get my screen sharing set up for you all. And I'm going to put this into slideshow mode so it looks correct. There we go. Hopefully you all are seeing the right information. It should look like, says public hearing, fiscal year 2023 and 24, state shared revenues across the top.
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Perfect. Just wanted to make sure technology is working for us today. So that's a great thing. So what I've done in the past is I've just given the council and the city and the citizens and residents just kind of like a brief overview of each of these items. So that way there's some information that's shared before the public hearing is opened and before there's an opportunity to comment. So in relation to state shared revenues, the city qualifies to receive state shared revenues by providing certain services. And those are listed out in ORS. We have police protection, street construction maintenance, sewer and storm services, utilities such as water would be a great example, planning, zoning, and subdivision control. The city does provide these services, and so the city is qualified and eligible to participate in the state revenue share. As far as what has been budgeted for 23 and 24, the upcoming fiscal year, trends have been relatively stable. We've seen some moderate shifts, as you know, and that's kind of predictable from as we see things change over time. We'll see less and less cigarette revenue as there's been so much programming informing folks about the hazards of smoking, right, from a health risk factor, but then yet we see other revenue areas increase. So overall trends are fairly stable. The main exception to that, of course, is how marijuana dollars are funded have changed. And so we've seen decreases on the state funding as the state introduced some legislation that really changed the proportional share and how they distribute dollars to cities. Essentially, the state is now receiving the bulk of the benefit on their part of the marijuana dollars, and a marginal amount is going to the cities. So that's really the biggest change overall in the state share revenues. Other than that, it looks quite stable and very consistent with the prior year. And so with that, I would turn the discussion of state share revenues over to council to hold a public hearing.
So this will open the public hearing for state shared revenue. This is referring to resolutions number 760-2023 and number 759-2023 in the consent agenda. I don't believe we have any public in the room or online. Do we have any further discussion from council on the state shared revenue?
I have none.
I have no questions. Any questions with comments or concerns from staff? No. Okay. We can go ahead and close the state shared revenue public hearing for resolution 7602023 and 7592023. And we will move on to the budget for the fiscal year 2023-2024.
All right. So again, a very similar process. I'm going to share just a brief overview of the information. You all were part of the budget process, being part of the budget committee. So I know the budget is not a surprise to you all, but again, we're just sharing some brief information and overview before anyone who else might join us or potentially join online or look at this YouTube video later on. So in relation to the upcoming fiscal year, the budget committee approved the budget as proposed. I believe just 2 short weeks ago, we were all together to do this work. The city is presenting an approved budget. It is balanced and complies with local budget law. And the budget itself we're seeing some moderate growth, not a lot of growth over the prior year, but some moderate growth. As far as we have these different categories, we've kind of broken those out to just give folks a little bit of an overview of where are the dollars being spent. And as we know, local government, a lot of the dollars tend to be in the cost of personnel. So personnel services are coming in at 2.2 million. We have materials and services. Those are our contracts and as well as like office supplies and physical materials of 1.3 million. Capital outlay is budgeted at 2.6, and that is largely because there's some bigger projects on the books and in the works, as well as use of the ARPA dollars for some of those too. We have debt service of $25,000, interfund transfers of approximately $200,000. Contingencies is booked at just over $500,000 there. And the rest is in the unappropriated fund balance and reserved for future expenditures of $6.4 million. And so that's really kind of the city's savings accounts, if you will, of where you're holding funds potentially for unforeseen, unexpected events as carryover to be able to have the city continue to operate from that period of July 1st into November when the property taxes first come in, and as well as potentially like savings for future projects and future costs. And so with that information, I would respectfully turn it over to council to hold a public hearing.
Okay, we will open the public hearing for budget fiscal year 2023-2024. This is referring to resolution number 763-2023 in the consent agenda. We have no public in the room or online, so I will close the public hearing for budget fiscal year 2023-2024, referring to resolution number 763-2023.
So the next action I would ask council respectfully to consider making a motion to approve the resolution adopting the budget.
Yeah, I will just ask council before we have a motion if there's any more questions, comments, concerns regarding resolution 7602023.
I have none.
I don't have any.
Do you have any from staff? Okay, do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution to adopt the budget, making the appropriate levy. I make a motion to pass the budget.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we pass resolution 763-2023, a resolution adopting the budget, making appropriations, levying, and categorizing property taxes for the fiscal year 2023-2024.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Congratulations, you have a budget for next year.
Great, thank you so much for your help.
Of course. So I will hang tight because when you are all ready to move on to the supplemental budget, then I will help walk you through that one as well.
Okay. Do you think we can move to the consent agenda and pass that and then wait for 20 minutes for the?
Yeah, yes, you can.
I guess the only question would be the meeting posted time here is 6:30, but on the resolution is 7. So, well, I would imagine the legalities would be, the resolution itself says 7, so we should probably wait. But not aware.
Yeah.
So my advice would be, yeah, just to, on the supplemental, is just to hold until 7 PM if that's possible. For folks and for the council to do that. I do not know your schedules, but I think that would be in the best interest of the city.
Just for the supplemental for this. One, yeah.
Then this is just this. This. Is completely different than this would be. Yeah, and we can amend the resolution. Before this time, but I don't know what was posted in the paper for the supplemental.
Okay, we can move on to the consent agenda and come back to it, or did you want to look?
Can we take a brief recess? I want to go pull the actual notice.
Sure,
See
yeah,
if I can find the notice, because if it says 6:30, then this is with the Scrivener's error that needs to be corrected in the resolution.
okay, council will recess this meeting at 6:43 PM.
It might be 7 by the time I get back.
That's okay. It's okay. I turned them off, yeah.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, it's fine. We've all done that.
On the resolution, you just read it word for word.
Basically.
You're making the motion.
Yeah.
Thank you for.
No worries. I only know because I've done it.
Well, what we try to do is actually write the scripts up on the, so make a motion to approve this and then,
Oh, that's what that is right there?
yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
It is.
Great. Posted in the paper, you said?
So we're fine, it's just the, but we need to correct the resolution.
Okay. Do we need to do that here or do? Okay, council will reconvene the June 21st, 2023 special city council meeting at 6:46 PM. Regarding resolution number 757-2023, the posted time for the meeting was 6:30 p.m. in the paper. There's a typo. It says 7 p.m. I would like to make a motion to amend resolution number 757-2023 to change the time from 7 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay,
So Krista, would you like to go, do the presentation to the council?
Yeah, I can go through the materials.
great, thank you.
All right, so now we are talking about the supplemental budget. So this is basically the final budget adjustment for the city for the end of the current fiscal year, so 22 through 23. So overall, the supplemental budget is making changes of appropriations, increases or decreases to each of the funds. Largely what is happening here is we have a couple of accounting changes, and the largest accounting change you'll see is the general fund says there is this increase. And that's because the general fund accounts for transfers back and forth and changes in the other funds. And then we also have changes as far as the increase, as far as like the big bulk in the general fund is about $400,000 of ARPA funds were still sitting in the general fund balance, and they needed to be transferred to the ARPA fund. And so this supplemental budget is accomplishing that. The rest of the changes are largely due to small adjustments. For example, the sewer bond fund, we have an increase of $2,000. That's because when we looked at the payoff information or requested the payoff information, the final interest came in just a little bit higher than originally budgeted and anticipated. So we need a little bit of cushion to be able to make that final payment. Other changes, again, are largely due to these increases and decreases in individual funds. You'll see is the fact that Sean and I had some discussion around truing up the balances on these funds and making sure that we're really recognizing what was the actual fund balance versus what was budgeted, because sometimes there's there's variances there. And Sean plans on doing some projections. And this is really going to help get her to a place where the numbers are clean for her to be able to make those projections and do more detailed forecasting for the city. And I just realized my screen sharing says it's still paused. So that's not helpful because you can't see what I'm sharing.
We cannot.
Let me see if I can fix that. It says pause. How about, can I unpause? Your screen sharing is paused. Well, it should have a button for me to unpause it. And if it doesn't, then I'm just going to reshare it. Oh, resume share. There we go. Okay. Question is, oh, and now it flipped back into the wrong. Let's hit resume slideshow too. There we go. Now you can see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, now we got it.
This is the information you were supposed to have in front of you. My apologies. This is definitely operator error. So the technology I cannot blame in this situation.
That's okay. We had a typo, so we're all just
right? Okay. So here we go. This is the summary of each of the changes. I wanted you all to see each fund's amount of change, increase and decrease, and at a glance to be able to just provide that transparency of the ups and downs that are happening here. And again, a lot of these increases and decreases, they're just true-ups because we're saying, hey, what was budgeted last year for beginning fund balance was off a bit, and we're truing that up, recognizing what it actually is. And again, that's going to help Sean with some more detailed forecasting for the city. And then we'll go on to the next slide. This is giving you a snapshot of what is that total change. So previously we had an amendment earlier in the year. So this is our second supplemental. So the previously amended total budget is 12.1 million. And now we're going to 12.7. You can see that change there that's happening. And so really you'll see there's some change happening in both the appropriations lines and the unappropriated and reserve amounts are both increasing. So there's a bit of a swing there, but you can see it's kind of equally distributed between the two categories. And then here, I'd like to just disclose some additional information around the publication. So today, when I was working through creating a upload file to be able to transfer this information from publication into your accounting system, I found that there was a footing error in the publication. So I have highlighted that footing error, and you can see very clearly in the total increase and decrease in fund resources that it is not picking up the second line of transfers there from other funds. And so I've highlighted that the total change as far as that, what is the total amount of the error? It's $5,000 and $5,012. So Sean and I had a discussion about this, about whether we needed to republish, what was the right approach. And we both said, this looks like a Scrivener's error, very similar type of thing. And looked at this and went, yeah, we're just going to notify you all of that there is a correction of $5,012 in the supplemental. And we'll make sure that we are updating the accounting information and updating the resolution as well with this information. It doesn't change the total appropriations, this particular error. It's actually changing the amount in reserve for future expenditures. So I would be more concerned if the error was in appropriations, because that's your authority to spend, versus reserve or unappropriated on fund balance, because those are dollars that the city are not spending, essentially. So that I did want to disclose that conversation and that error here today. Are there any questions for me that I can answer?
So it says the change in the reserve fund was $75. Is that right? Okay.
The reserve fund, yeah, isn't that funny? It's a $75 change. It's basically goes from the amount of interest, because reserve fund doesn't have a lot of activity, right? We accumulate funds, we forecast what we think interest is going to be for interest income. And so the interest income forecasted was just a little bit off. So we're adjusting it downwards by the $75 to true up that beginning fund balance to what it really is.
Thank you. It just looked interesting with all the other numbers being so much bigger.
Right. And then there's the $75. It's just, there's just not a lot of activity in that fund. And like I said, it's transfers, which those always match perfectly. So the only variable is interest income.
Okay. Councilor Steiner, any questions, comments, concerns?
No, I don't have any questions.
Councilor Yano,
I don't have any questions.
anything from staff? Great. Okay, well, thank you for the presentation and the explanation. Very helpful. Do we have a motion for resolution 7572023?
One point of order real quick. So
Okay.
this one does require a public hearing.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I just want to let the council know that. So if you wouldn't mind holding a public hearing really quickly, just so we can comply with the process outlined in RS, then we're good to go.
Okay, we will open a public hearing for the supplemental budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 regarding resolution number 7572023, a resolution adopting supplemental budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. We have no public in the room or online, so I will close the public hearing for supplemental budget for fiscal year 2022-2023, resolution number 7572023. Now I will go back to council and ask if we have a motion.
I'll make a motion to pass the supplemental budget for fiscal year 2022-2023, resolution number 7572023, resolution approving a supplemental budget for the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries unanimously.
All right.
Okay,
Well, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Of course. Yep. And I will go ahead and sign off at this point unless anyone else has any questions for me.
Any other questions? No? Okay, great. Thank you. Have a great
All
night.
right. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we will move on to item number 5, consent agenda. Since we didn't pull anything out, I will read the 4 items in the consent agenda. A resolution 7582023, a resolution extending the city of Hubbard workers' compensation coverage to volunteers of the city of Hubbard and repealing resolution number 7332022. B, resolution number 7592023, a resolution certifying the city of Hubbard provides 4 or more municipal services to be eligible to receive state shared revenues. C, resolution number 7602023, a resolution declaring the city of Hubbard's election to receive state revenues pursuant to ORS 221.770. And D, resolution 7622023, a resolution amending compensation ranges for represented employees and non-represented employees and repealing resolution number 7432022.
Okay, I'll make a motion to pass the consent agenda as read.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, consent agenda motion carries unanimously. That will take us to agenda item number 6, appearance of interested citizens. We do not have any, so we will continue moving to agenda item number 7, other city business. Does council have any other city business?
I do not.
I don't either.
Staff. Okay, great. We will move on to number 8, which is adjournment, and I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. That concludes the June 21, 2023 special city council meeting, and the next regular meeting is July 13th at 7 p.m. All right, meeting adjourned. I did multiple times. Thanks to the recess.